We're starting today the series that Be'ezat Hashem of finishing all of Hilchot Shabbat from Elul till Purim. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach B'siyata Dishmaya. Program is going to be 5 days a week on Shabbat and on Friday and on Shabbat. It's time to review. And these shiurim are going to add on a little bit more. Whoever didn't get their book, Magen, Avot, Yomi, Chelek Bet, by generous sponsors, we're giving out books if you commit to go to study the program. But you have to commit to study this program. Be'ezrat Hashem, there is the links, and you could look it up all on the website of MoroccanHalacha.com. And with that, we're going to start. How is Oneg Shabbat fulfilled? Mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat. Nowadays it became very popular that there are those who do a mitzvah called To'ameya. You heard of this? Big parties that they do before Shabbat with a buffet. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's a Moroccan minhag. Why? Because I was in Morocco a month ago and we had a whole To'ameya. It happened to be kugel and yapchik and whatever else, but it was in Morocco. No, I'm just joking. It was Hasidim that were in Morocco and they did To'ameya. I don't know if it became a Moroccan minhag, but it definitely was a lot of food. And the question is, if you're going to have To'amea Chaim Zachu, obviously to taste the food before Shabbat is a mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat. So the Tunisians, they have such a minhag. What do they call their seudah? The Moroccans call it boi kala. The Tunisians also, they have something that they call it Kabbalat Shabbat. They taste the food before Shabbat, and by Ashkenazim it became popular as well to taste the food before Shabbat To'ameh. But obviously, if somebody is going to have too much food, it's not going to that defeats the purpose. That he's going to come into Shabbat feeling all full. Besides the fact that Chas v'Shalom drinking too much and being in dangerous situations when he's still able to drive, I'm not even talking about. So let's discuss first of all Oneg Shabbat. I want to tell you this. I saw something fascinating recently from the Zera Shimshon. The Zera Shimshon says that we know that there's that people tell you if you eat whatever you eat on Shabbat, you're not going to gain in pounds. You ever heard of that? So most nutritionists are going to say that's not true, right? But Zera Shimshon says something that's going to be matzdiked a little bit. Zera Shimshon says that whatever you eat on Shabbat, so the worms and the maggots after a person dies are not going to eat up that person. So actually my idea based on this Zera Shimshon is that a person should take Ozempic strong, and then only eat on Shabbat. That way his whole buildup is only on Shabbat. And maybe the last 5 years of his life. That way he knows that he's like his body is not going to be eaten up by worms and maggots. Yeah, Rizal didn't have any weight on him, but I'm saying that it's the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat. The mitzvah is something that is learned from the Gemara in Masechet Pesachim that a person should always add on beforehand. Also, it's written in the Gemara that a person has to spend whatever he can. I'll tell you some interesting details. That a person obviously shouldn't eat too much. Rav Chaim Palaji writes that a person should not eat too much, and it's written like this in Siman Lamed Vav Sifnan Nun Bet, because he's going to have to eat a little more on Shabbat, and that's going to be very tough. As a matter of fact, the Magid Mesharim, which was the special messenger, the special Magid that came to the Bet Yosef, he came to him and he told him that even though there's a mitzvah of being me'aneg on Shabbat, don't eat too much. So based on this, the Chida writes in Moreh Be'etzba that if you're gonna eat some sweet food, and according to the Balei Musar, when you work on yourself and like you're supposed to have train yourself not to eat everything on your plate, and that helps you also for Shmirat Einayim, because you're teaching your body to say no. So if on Shabbat you have a whole plate and you have a lot of like these sweets, and you to say, you know what, I had enough sweets, That's also allowed on Shabbat. Don't say, no, on Shabbat I go all out and I don't work on myself. No, even on Shabbat, a person should work on himself. That's what based on this Magid Misharim, the Chida says, it's not enough just to say, no, I'm not gonna indulge in anything. So that's an important detail. Furthermore, the Ben Ish Chai writes that when a person eats and drinks and has kavanah for l'shem mitzvah, and also that he should be happy, on Shabbat, he fulfills a mitzvah of mitzvah oneg Shabbat. So don't say, oh, I'm just going to think about spiritual stuff and I'm not going to think that my body's happy. Since your body is a whole vehicle for Kiddusha, on Shabbat, it's me'en olam haba. So whatever you engage in on Shabbat of physical, that elevates it, and that's a tachlit. So it's an important thing. Now, if somebody doesn't like meat, or he's a vegetarian, is he obligated to have meat? Somebody who's dommage, he can't stand meat. So I know somebody, as a matter of fact, he loves pizza. So we'd have pizza on Shabbat. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit funny, but there are people like that. Not everybody's the same. So there is no mitzvah, contrary to popular belief, there's no mitzvah to have meat on Shabbat. There's no mitzvah to have anything on Shabbat if you don't have pleasure. As a matter of fact, that's why there is a Moroccan minhag that there are certain avelim during their 7 days of avelut. Even on Shabbat, they don't have meat. And Shabbat Chazon, there are certain families from Marrakesh especially that don't have meat on Shabbat. Now, you're going to tell me it's a prohibition, it's a violation. The answer is that since they're doing it because for them, it's something to remind themselves that they're bitzar. I understand you're not supposed to be bitzar on Shabbat. Not speaking about that now. It's a whole different subject. But the fact that there's no mitzvah to eat meat is what would allow a person in this minhag to continue, because this is not the oneg for him. Okay. Furthermore, I think we mentioned certain things already on that are written in the book. If you could take a look, it's going to be in page 23, 24. That's the halacha aleph. I'm just gonna complete this session with a few more important details. That if a person is going to spend money, whatever he spends money on Shabbat and on his children's education is not counted in his budget. That means Hashem is going to repay him. Now, does that mean that a person should be irresponsible? We've asked this question before to great Rabbanim, and no, it doesn't mean that a person should go over the limit. It's just more than what he's used to. He doesn't have to take that into account. And we know that people who honor Shabbat, who they see tremendous beracha. Did I forget anything? I mean, there's a lot more details in regard to, let's say, a person takes pleasure in different foods. He should definitely buy those foods and engage them. But that's in general the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat. So in a summary, the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat is that a person should buy foods that he likes. He should eat those foods, but he should stay away from something that he doesn't like, and he doesn't have to eat too much. And if you diet, you will gain weight. If you don't diet on Shabbat, you will gain weight, but after 120, that weight will not be eaten by worms and maggots. That's the upside. Hazaku baruch.